Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name's Matt Wakeling, and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia, where I speak to leading guitarists and guitar figures. Today I'm talking to Jon Sullivan, aka Sully of Sully Guitars. Now, John's been on the show, quite a few years ago, and I really wanted to get him back, as I see he has just launched the Michael Sweet Signature Series. And as you may know, we are big fans of Michael Sweet and Stryper. Michael Sweet's been on the podcast a couple of times as well, so it seemed like a good idea to get Sully back. So we talk about those Michael Sweet series guitars, also a bunch of other cool things happening in Sullyland, being on the cover of Guitar Player magazine, for one. Working with the R&B artist Zaria, who you might remember being on TikTok and being slammed for wearing a Metallica t-shirt, and then she came back and just shredded several Metallica songs to prove her credentials, that kind of stuff. It's a great interview. John's always great to talk to, and we'll jump into that interview shortly. This episode is brought to you by The Pedal Movie, a feature-length film all about effects pedals created by the music gear marketplace Reverb. I am super excited about this film. The Pedal Movie features nearly 100 interviews with people like Steve Vai, Peter Frampton, Jay Mascis, Billy Corgan, and more, including some of our Guitar Speak podcast alumni like Dweezil Zappa, Sarah Lipstate, Johnny Barmer, and Brian Wampler. Reverb's The Pedal Movie is available now on iTunes, Google Play, and Vudu. For more information, visit www.thepedalmovie.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is not only a fantastic guitar player, he draws on his years of experience as the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also at the McNally Smith Music College. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
Sully, welcome back to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It has. What sparked my attention is seeing you launch the Michael Sweet guitar. He's been on this show a couple of times. As a kid, I loved Stryper. Tried to jam along with the records back in the day, all that stuff. But there's lots of other great Sully things going on, so I thought it would be a good time to get you back and have a conversation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It the Michael working with Michael has been fun, and as you've shared, me being growing up being a huge fan of like Jackson guitars and stuff like that, and remember the big ad that was success, the company you keep, and there's just all of these people, and Michael's in there, and he's got his striped Rhodes, and so all of that was those guitars. Gosh, especially on those in the Stryper videos and stuff like that, those guitars were very iconic. And whether you were a fan or not, I mean, you see something yellow and black striped, and you'll either think one, Eddie Van Halen, ooh, my card went flying, or two, is Stryper. Regardless, like even if it's one thing that I learned is it doesn't even have to be stripes. If it's yellow and black. Someone immediately is going to say somebody in Stryper should play that guitar. And so now somebody in Stryper does play Sully guitars. So that's cool.
That's super cool. That's awesome, man. How does that happen then? There's a bunch of great signature artists too, which we could perhaps talk about too, but how does this connection happen with you? How do you start talking to Michael?
Sure. I these kinds of things in my experience has always been friends of friends network kind of connections. It's never been I don't necessarily reach out to people and say, hey, why don't you check out my guitars? For a few reasons, but I don't think any of the higher profile clients that I've had have ever come that way. So in the beginning of 2020, so I'll say probably it was just after NAMM. Wow, that's a new record. So I think this is the shortest time I've been on a podcast and worked NAMM into a story. So, woo, everybody! If you've got the Sully podcast bingo card going, check that off. The worst. So it was probably about late February or so, and I was contacted by a couple of people who we had mutual contacts through. And it was funny because it was the same exact conversation. It was a morning in February. My phone rings. Like many people, I don't generally answer my phone if I don't recognize the number. Uh-huh. And that number kept calling. I'm like, all right, hello. And so the guy, Jason, was a friend of Michael's. He said, hey, we know each other, we've met and we know each other. I'm like, yes, of course. And he said, so a friend of mine is a high profile artist, and he's been with a major manufacturer for a while and is looking for other options. And would that be something that you're interested in? And well, sure. Certainly happy to have a conversation with somebody. Because, best case scenario, you forge ahead and work together. Worst case scenario, you don't. And that's okay. So I said, yeah, sure. And it said, well, it's Michael Sweet. I'm like, all right, well, you can give him my number and we'll go from there. And then about 15 minutes later, my phone rang, and it was Adam from FU Tone. And he said, Sully, I want to bounce an idea off of you. I said, okay. Now, I've got a friend, legendary artist, played iconic guitars. He's with a major manufacturer. He's looking for other options. And I started laughing. And I said, is it Michael Sweet? and because of because if yes, then ha, I'm clairvoyant. And if not, then I'm having a really good morning. Yeah. And so I said, I'm laughing, like, is it Michael Sweet? And he's like, well, yeah, how'd you know? And I'm like, because I just had this conversation about 15 minutes ago. By all means, give him my info and have him get in touch. We're more than happy to talk to him. And so a little while later, Michael texted, got in touch, and it was one of those rare moments that are very convenient when I actually have a guitar or two that I can send someone to check out, because I think that's important. And so, it doesn't always happen that way, but things lined up, and I said, well, okay, so I've got a 71 Trella, which is a custom. And I've also got a 71 Starling, which is part of the Conspiracy series, our production line, which is made in Korea. And, because as we were talking, the idea is much like what he's done previously, is we would do a production import line, a signature model, as well as, maybe do a small batch of customs. And I said, well, okay, cool. Good news. I've got a custom. I've got a Conspiracy series guitar. Let me just send these to you to check out. If you like them, great. We can, figure something out. And if it's not for you, no problem. Thanks for checking stuff out. And so I sent the guitars out, and it was right actually when they were recording the most recent album, Even the Devil Believes. So I believe that those, either one or both of those guitars were used to some extent on that album, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And he came back and he's like, yeah, would love to work with you. And, he did his research. And, I also am sure that I was not the only person that he was speaking with, because, you know, if someone's looking for options, you know, go and check out some other things. And I think one of the things that he liked, and I could be wrong, but I don't think so, because I think he's said something along these lines, is that the guitars that he had played had a very similar feel and maybe spirit about them as the Jacksons that he played in Stryper's, you know, earlier formative years, and maybe not so formative years. So that's cool, and that's really nice. And that's not a huge surprise for me, because
Sure.
You know, that's not a huge surprise for me, because that's, you know, a lot those are the guitars that I loved, you know, Jacksons and Charvels and stuff.
Yes,
and
yeah.
So that makes sense. Then, so this was probably late May of 2020. And he said, okay, well, let's make a guitar. I said, all right. And we agreed on a shape. I said, well, you know, let me ask you this. Is it cool if I try and come up with my own stripe pattern? He's like, yeah. I'm like, sweet.
Nice.
There's a pun.
There we go.
So,
second Sully podcast bingo card tick.
Right. And so, you know, I didn't really have any ideas at the time. I was working on something else, but so we decided that it would be the Revolution model, which is a pointy V. And we talked about a few things, what we would like to have on it, and we went from there. So I was working on another Revolution at the time, and you know, the idea just kind of struck me. I'm like, I was listening to Prince, and I do that a lot. And one of the things that I've noted is that things tend to go really well in the shop when I'm listening to Prince. Nothing bad ever happens when I'm listening to Prince. So I guess one could ask, well, why don't you constantly listen to Prince? Because I guess you have to have the yin and yang, kids. So I was listening to Prince, and the song 7 was on, and that's just such a great song. And I thought, well, I'm working on this Revolution, which is a symmetrical pointy V. And I'm like, why don't we 7s? And so why don't I like invert some 7s and kind of stagger them and then mirror it. So we've got a couple of things. We've got a stripe pattern that hasn't been used for one of his guitars up to this point, which is great. So we've got that, and then you know, if you look close enough, you'll see some 7s, and that kind of ties in with, cool. You know, with the motif.
Yes,
that's great. But so, you know, and I just laid out. I just had you know, just brown binding tape, and I'm just laying it out on this body, and you know, I took a picture and sent it to him. And the one thing that can be challenging for me as a designer, I know what it looks like in my head. Just like if you get an idea for a song, like, you know, when I was very active in songwriting and that sort of thing, you get an idea, and I'm like, I can hear the drums. I know what the bass sounds. I know what this sounds like. So like, I know what this looks like. But the reality is, I'm sending a picture of an unpainted Revolution that has like brown tape on it. And I'm like, I hope this makes sense, but here's what I'm going for. And I hope that you can see this too. And thankfully, it was like, yeah, dude, that's rad. So I'm like, that is rad. Now we've got a decision. So that's even greater. So then it was, you know, big, we got the guitar done very quickly. You know, speaking of the Luthierist podcast, my good friend Doug Cower was nice enough to do the paint work for me, because he's got the UV booth, and he can, you know, knocked it out quickly, because we were on a very tight time schedule, because I had to get it to Michael in time for photo shoots and videos. Mm-hmm. So we had a little bit over a month to do that. And then but we got it done. And so that was the first guitar. And we're going to do a couple more that one, I know what it is and I'm not prepared to share that yet. And then we'll do another shape, but we're going to do like a series of kind of signature models for him. So that'll be cool. And I think that'll be a little different from what he's done in the past, which I am a fan of doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool.
But so then we've got we did the custom, and then the conspiracy series version of that. I mean, it's the same CAD files. Like the neck is the same. It is, it's the closest thing that you're going to get to the guitar that he actually plays without me actually making you one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's great, and we're kind of working out the specs, and I know that it's common with artist signature models from major manufacturers to maybe not necessarily use all the same hardware and pickups and stuff. Maybe for the most part, many do, of course, but it's not all that uncommon to it's like we'll make the shape and it'll look like it, but we'll maybe put, a lower priced pickup or, a licensed trem or something like that. But these guitars, they'll have the Fishman Fluence modern pickups, just like the guitars that are the pickups that are in his guitar. It'll have a tremolo from FU Tone, which is, upgraded, and we'll have, a big brass block and all of the upgrades that FU Tone does on their stuff. Comes with a hard shell case with his signature on it. And, so it's priced a little higher than what his signature models have been priced in the past. But I think we make up for it by the feature comparison, and also the guitars are manufactured in a different country. And I'm not saying one over another, but generally speaking, there is a pricing tier that's kind of based on the country of manufacture, if that makes sense. Generally, guitars that are made in Japan are the most expensive of the Asian made guitars. And then you get Korea, which is where these are made, and then goes in Indonesia and China.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of that too. But the nice thing is that, it's loaded with features, and so
Sounds
it's
awesome,
we're happy about it. So those should be here, later in the year.
That's cool, man. That's so good.
Shipping schedules. Yeah, shipping schedules and production timelines being what they have been because of 2020 being 2020,
of
still
course,
impacting all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Hey,
but that's the story with Michael.
That's really cool, man. With specs, was there much back and forth between you and Michael, or did he have a firm idea of what he's used and what he likes and that sort of thing?
He's pretty flexible with that stuff. Like for example, the signature model has stainless steel frets on it, because that is in line with what I do on all of the other models, on my customs and on the Conspiracy Series guitars. And also from a feature standpoint, the stainless steel frets can be a little more desirable, generally speaking. Michael on his custom prefers nickel. So that's what's on his. Other than that, when we were discussing, like pickups, we were kicking around a few options, but it was really important to me to try and make it as close as I could to the guitar that I made for him. And so, I worked out something with the fine people at Fishman, and, we were able to make that happen. So that was kind of a last minute thing before I got the order, not before the order pits, but before we went live with pre-orders. But so, we were both really happy about that. So,
yeah, cool.
But yeah, no, he's very, very easygoing as far as that stuff goes.
Sure. Did he know about your relationship with Grover Jackson? Because as you mentioned earlier, this connection, but I thought it was a very cool synergy knowing how much you love Grover and that you've actually worked with him. And of course, those early Stryper guitars were Jackson's, and even his later ones, he was playing with Washburn. Of course, Grover Jackson did some work with Washburn and had a hand in some of those guitars too. So there's some nice connections here. Did you guys talk about Grover much?
Yeah. You know, I don't remember. It's possible. You know, when we were having earlier conversations about stuff, just so he could kind of get an idea of where, you know, where kind of I'm coming from a, you know, how does it play kind of standpoint. I believe that we probably talked about it at one point or another, but yeah, I don't know that I remember specifically.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, most people kind of, if they have more than a casual kind of awareness of what I do, they are pretty aware of the connection that Mr. J and I have.
I hope you are enjoying today's interview. Now, this podcast is brought to you by The Pedal Movie, a feature-length film all about effects pedals created by the music gear marketplace Reverb. Now, you know we love guitar pedals here on the Guitar Speak podcast, and we're super excited on the release of this film. The Pedal Movie explores how effects pedals and their builders have shaped modern music and guitar playing over time, from the fuzz pedal experiments of the Rolling Stones and Jimi Hendrix through the shoegaze and indie rock of the 90s and up to the modern day use of effects. Reverb also speaks with builders and leaders from more than 50 pedal brands to answer the big question, how did guitar pedals get so big? Reverb's The Pedal Movie is available now on iTunes, Google Play and Vudu. For more info, check out thepedalmovie.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by master guitar teacher Joe Elliott. Now, I was a beta tester for the course, and as a music educator myself, I was very impressed by the logical layout and format of the course. Heavyweight guitarists such as Brett Garsed and Greg Koch have also endorsed the program, so check it out at www.fretboardbiology.com. Okay, back to our interview. We jump on a few other things. You've recently moved into your own building space after building these incredible guitars out of your garage for years and years. Tell me about that.
I did. Moved in to a proper facility on May 1st. And it all kind of just happened one day this past March. Mrs. Sully and I were out driving, and there was this building. It was like an industrial building that whenever I would drive past that, I would imagine like, oh yeah, it'd be kind of cool to have, you know, something like that would be like, you know, Sully HQ. But, you know, I never looked into it because I'm never really in a hurry to add things like overhead costs, okay. You know, to what it is that I'm doing. And, you know, quite frankly, I was able to get a lot done in the garage for 12 years, maybe a little longer. But it was one of these things that and I was driving home that morning, and she and I were just kind of talking and, you know, kind of daydreaming. And, you know, the dream would be to have our house be on a spot where there's some land, and, you know, be able to build a proper shop on land that you already own. I'm like, that's a dream. That still absolutely is. But, and I thought, you know what, let's just look. Why don't I just look and see what's available, see what's out there. And I found this place that was 5 to 10 minutes from my house, that I thought would be a great fit. And it was a little bit more, you know, it worked out to be a little bit more than I was comfortable biting off per month. but then I was continuing to look, and then I found this place. It was it's about 15 miles, like about 20 minutes from my house. And I went out there, and it's, an industrial complex. It's primarily steel buildings. And, but one of the things that I really liked about the location is it's in a very rural area. The road that it's on, it's not a busy street. And pretty much everything surrounding where it is right now is kind of like ranch land. So there's cows, there are horses, like my neighbors are horses. My neighbors are literally horses. And, when I drive out there, it's very much like, even though it's, 20 minutes away, it's very much like going to a very different place. So I, went out there, checked it out, and I'm like, this feels really, I think it was less than the place that was much closer to me and had, more things included. And, so I pulled the trigger, and, but it was funny once that I was having that conversation with Mrs. Sully in March, it really just flipped a switch. Like I got to get out of the garage. Cause in July of 2019, I got a CNC machine, and while it's not, it's got a good sized footprint. And it was I was able to kind of get it in a space in the garage that, wasn't, it was organized as well as I was going to get it, but it just, with all the fixtures and the other things that I needed to swap out, and, it just became way too difficult to really get stuff done in there, safely. And I'm also, the type of person that I'm not a neat freak. Otherwise I would do a much better job of cleaning up as I go. But, once kind of clutter gets to a certain point, it kind of stresses me out, and I just don't want to be in there. So I was kind of dealing with some of that. So, it really, seemed like the right thing to do. So, we got everything out on May 1st, and it's all over. Well, for the most part, there's still some stuff here. I didn't move all of the guitars that were in progress, and I still have like some wood and stuff here. I wanted to move things over kind of bit by bit, because I do have quite a bit of a backlog. And if I just take a couple of bodies and a couple of necks, those are the only things I can work on that day. Yeah. As opposed to, I'm just going to run a batch of fretboards on the CNC. Do you need fretboards right now, Sally? Well, no, but I'm gonna. Yes. But do you need them right now? No. What do you need to do right now? Sand that neck. Sanding. Mm-hmm. So what do you think you should do right now? Go sand that neck over there. Yes. Good job. So those are the conversations that I have with myself. So yeah. So I've been in there for, a little over a month now. I don't have it set up to, like, it doesn't feel remotely close to like, yeah, this is like the greatest layout and this is how everything needs to be. But I am a believer in that it doesn't have to be perfect, just it has to exist and refine as you go. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So it's, there's a couple of offices in there, and it's warehouse space. And, one office, I've got two desks. One is like a computer desk that I do, computering on. And then the other desk is larger, and that's kind of like the setup, assembly and setup and stuff like that, because I needed to have that be in a clean area. So we close the doors and keep those doors closed, because it's also air conditioned, and that's nice. That's so. And then there's another office, and that's what.
Oh, that must be awesome, air conditioning.
Oh, I lost you a little bit there.
That must be awesome having air conditioning.
It is. It's an exciting change. Being in the garage for as long as I was, in the summer months when it gets really hot here, I could really only be in the garage for so long at a time. And then I could feel my hands kind of getting a little tight. I'm like, oh, I'm getting dehydrated. And usually around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I would come in the house and I would lay on the tile floor in the kitchen like my dog. We would both just lay there. And I'm like, buddy, I get it. I get it. And so the nice thing is that while the warehouse like shop space isn't air conditioned, everything is very insulated in there. So, today it's in the 90s. It wasn't bad in there today at all. And, so even at that temperature with no air conditioning, it's much better than what it was in the garage. So, but yeah, to have, air conditioning in any of the rooms. Oh, it's so wonderful.
Very cool.
So that is great.
Congratulations. Yeah. I'm super happy for you. That's really, really cool.
Thank you. It is exciting and also scary, but that's kind of the way things have to go.
Yeah. Very cool. Hey, can we talk about another Sully artist, Zaria, who
Sure.
Came on board with you guys, I guess at the turn of the year. I love this story. Do you want to give us the background on how you found out about her?
Sure. So I found out about Zaria. So for those of you playing along at home, you may know Zaria as the girl on TikTok who was wearing a Metallica shirt and got the whole gatekeeping, name 3 songs. And she's like, how about I play them on guitar for you? And so I found Banksy, go lay down. Banks, go lay down. Banksy is also very interested in podcasting. He's a good boy, but he does need to go lay down. So one of another Sully artist, Pascual Romero, he had seen this whole thing unfold and had shared a link on his social media, like the day it kind of happened, and said something, hey, she should be a Sully artist. And so I looked at, looked and saw what was going on. And I'm like, yeah, she should, because I think it's great because it's, you can't really, I loved it on many levels. One specifically of just, shutting someone down without being rude or whatever.
Yeah.
And having a sense of humor and a little tongue in cheek and a little sneer about it. Those are all things that I can really appreciate. And, I've said, in interviews and whatnot for quite some time that, that 51% of the population is very underserved in the guitar market. And, so let's fix that. And so I got in touch with her, but also Pascual did too, and he was able to get in touch with her before I did, and because quite frankly, I knew that it had already kind of blown up because Loudwire had shared the story, and it was blowing up, but not at the peak of its blowing upness. And I knew that it was a matter of time before Metallica saw it. And I knew that it would be like a matter of time maybe before ESP would hit her up. So
you're right.
So he was able to get in touch with her and said, like, are you talking to any guitar companies yet? And she's like, nope. And I'm like, and so then we had a conversation. And here's the thing, she has an R&B career. She's, primarily a vocalist, and, she's good. She's really good at what she does. And the thing that I really liked about it, was that she already had something going on, but she had these roots where she, played guitar and grew up listening to metal and that sort of thing, and wanted to incorporate that into what she was doing. So yes, it's one thing to be there at a time where someone is kind of blowing up, and then you get in touch and like, hey, this person that's viral, they have a Sully guitar. sure, that works on one level, but the thing that made more sense to me was that what she wanted to do in the future, because, this is a 15-minute thing, and sure, people will always, remember, oh yeah, remember that time she, got a hard time for wearing, Metallica shirt. And, but, she's an artist of her own merit and deserves people's attention. And, one of the things that I really appreciated, and Pasquale kind of getting her in, connecting us, when he and I were speaking about it, I said, well, one of the things that he likes about being a Sully artist is that we have a diverse roster. And that is very true. And it's nice to hear that from someone else, because I know it's something that's important to me.
Yep.
And so that was, it worked out well. So it just much like with Michael, it's like, I see the guitars that you've got. This will probably, this will fit in. And at the same day that I sent her a guitar to try out, she just bought a Jackson.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, well, if you like that, so I'm like, here's what I got available. And again, this is one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to send it out for you to check out. If you like it, if it's not for you, it's totally cool. There's a return label in the box. You can just put it in there, take it to FedEx. All good. Thanks for checking it out. But she loved the guitar. She's like, I paid extra to have this Jackson set up, and the Sully, I love it much, much more. So that's nice. So she's got a single out for a song called Ignition, and it's R&B, but it's got like a rock guitar solo in it, and it's cool. And so, I mean, as cool as it is to catch, a little bit of synergy with someone that's got a bit of a high profile at the moment, it's really nice to have something to work together long term.
Yeah, nice. I think it fits musically in your wheelhouse as well, being a huge Prince fan. That the idea that you have blazing guitar over a really accessible R&B or pop tune, that's cool, man.
Sure. And I obviously that there's a connection there, and so that's nice when that happens too. But primarily it's just like, if somebody's got something going on that I can see something in, that I it doesn't. Somebody's got something going on, and I can see a point where I'm like, yeah, this might be a good fit. It's really nice when that stuff happens, because a lot of times, the whole finding artists thing, finding the right artists to work with is a challenge. And then there are also some challenges on my end too, because I don't always have stuff on hand to send people to check out. And, I might have a profile level at a certain level, where I may not be completely unknown. But on the other hand, it's still just me working on this stuff. So I don't have a whole bunch of employees, and, so it's there can be some challenges. So it's really nice when things work out.
Yeah. Awesome. Last area I wanted to ask you about was, talk us through seeing your guitar on the cover of Guitar Player magazine, as happened with Stevie D.
Yeah. That was a few years ago.
Since we spoke a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, that was, gosh. So Stevie and I started working together in June of 2017. And, we were talking about, earlier about when you mentioned, well, how did the Michael Sweet thing? And it was just a networking kind of like, I know it. And so the Stevie thing came from a guitar I made for Nikki Sixx. And, Nicky had some guitars. He had one of mine over there, and Stevie came over and checked it out. He's like, "Whoa, this is really cool. I really like it." And so, whatever. So then we started working together, and it was summer of, maybe it was summer 2018. No, summer 2017. Oh, it's a blur. Stevie called me, and he was very excited because this was going to happen. With the cover, and it was a shared cover with Rich Ward and a gentleman named Ryan. I don't remember. Sorry, Ryan. We had plans to do a 71 Trella with a stylized or a color variant of the Chicago flag, which is a place where both Stevie and I are from. So we had that kind of commonality, and so we got the guitar done, and and they did the photo shoot. And I remember he sent me a picture from the photo shoot that I just love. And I don't think I've shared it because he hasn't, so I'm not going to either. But it was really cool. And then, so this was in like September, and the cover didn't happen until it was a January issue of Guitar Player. So that came out in December. So, had a few months waiting. And it was funny because, people who have a magazine subscription, they get it before it hits the newsstands. So I didn't have a subscription, but I had a couple, had some people like, dude, what the hell? Because I'm not talking about it because, but I know this is happening. I found, December 15th, it hit the newsstands, and I went to the mall, and I went to the bookstore in the mall, and they had 10 copies. I bought every single one of them. And, I took it up to the counter, and the person at the counter said, like, are you in the magazine? I'm like, no, but I built that guitar. And so the lady, she's like, oh my God, that's so cool. I'm like, oh my God, I did. And
that's the best.
And then there was another bookstore a few miles away. So I drove over there, and they had 5 copies of it. So I bought all 5 copies. So, I sent one to my mom, and I sent one to my dad, and all that. It's nuts. To answer your question, it's nuts. It is a huge thrill, and one that I certainly wouldn't mind it happening again. But no, it's quite a thrill. It was it was the whole like hearing your song on the radio kind of thing. And I remember, and actually now I think about it, it was a January episode, January issue. And here we go, kids, get your bingo card. As I was coming back from NAMM, and I'm walking through the airport, there's that Guitar Player magazine. I didn't buy any of them. I figured I would save some for some people to purchase, but it was hard not to just buy all of them. But I know it's a silly kind of thing.
We would all be buying all of them. Any of us on the cover would buy every single one. We get it, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's the world and media has changed a lot over the decades, but there still is something to seeing, a guitar that I built, not only on the cover, but like a couple of pages in, like Stevie and Josh were in an ad for Pig Hog Cables, and he's playing like a different Sully, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And and then the guitar is like in that magazine a few times. Stevie was in Guitar Player magazine a few months later, and he's got his Conspiracy Series 71 SD signature model in the article. So it's a huge thrill, and I'm very, very grateful for Stevie for doing that, because he's got a million guitars, and I think it was important for him to kind of, if he was going to have that kind of an opportunity to be on the cover, to kind of have a guitar that was a little different. And gosh, I really, really, really appreciated it. And also, finally, one of the things that was a nice kind of added bonus is the way that the cover was laid out. And where Stevie was in that photo, like he doesn't have any words over him. There's no like a subscription label or anything over it, and like there's the Sully logo. I mean, like you can see it really well. And that was, gosh, I really, really appreciate that. That was, I am very, very grateful to Stevie for doing that, and to Mr. Six for making that connection.
Yeah, cool. Awesome, man. Sully, that's awesome news, man. Any fans of your work were super stoked for you seeing that magazine cover. Is there anything else going on in Sully land that we should know about before we wrap up? Well, gosh, man, I don't know. There's always like 1,000 things going on. I'm thinking about the future and what future conspiracy theory models are going to happen, and customs and stuff like that. And I'm always thinking of things of that nature. Right now, I'm just my biggest focus is to get through more of my custom backlog and to get the NAMM guitars for 2022 built. And because the one thing that is going to be different is that a few weeks ago, Grover finally was able to move back home to Tennessee. Oh, wow. And because when I would go to NAMM, his shop was kind of my second home. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't necessarily have all of the guitars completely finished and set up or wired or whatever, it was fine. I would just bring them with me, get there early, and go, finish them at his shop. And it's a little bittersweet because I loved that place dearly, but I'm glad that I have a place of my own now. But it also, it's up to me to make sure I get it together and, sure, be more organized and to get everything done before we have to go and that sort of thing. But sure.
Yeah, man, I'm just trying to get through all of this and get settled into the shop and hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have at least a part-time, Sully employee. That would be great.
Wow, so cool.
Fingers crossed.
Nice. Well, man, Sully, thank you so much. It's really cool to hear from you and hear all your news. And we're big fans here at the Guitar Speak podcast. So thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, anytime. Thanks for having me. Good to speak with you again.
All right, there you go. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Now, this podcast was brought to you by The Pedal Movie, the feature-length film all about effects pedals created by Reverb. Reverb's The Pedal Movie is available now on iTunes, Google Play and Voodoo. For more information, visit thepedalmovie.com. The show was also brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by ex-head of guitar at GIT, Joe Elliott. Check out fretboardbiology.com for more information. Alrighty then, you have been listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name is Matt Wakeling, and as the legendary German rocker Michael Schenker once told me,
keep rocking, keep on rocking.
Keep on rocking indeed. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Bye now.